When people usually talk about the first time they watched porn, no, not even watched porn, it's witnessing porn, they're filled with like happy memories and they look back at it with like rose tinted glasses. For me, it's a very different road, as I'm sure it's for many of you out there. So that's why I'm putting it out there for you and allowing you to share your trauma as well. Because if you're looking into my eyes, you might feel like you're looking at a fierce man with youthful spirit burning in his eyes, but you'd be mistaken, my friend. Right now, what lingers in my eyes is pure fear. Because of what I'm about to tell you, it's gonna rock you to your very core, as it did mine when I was just a wee little lad, as they say. And yeah, I also, spiced up my setup. I felt like my background was really blank and bleak. So I have Gintoki over there. Yeah? Yeah, right there. So enjoy. So this harrowing incident happened when I was about I don't know 10 to 12 years old. So like second to third grade, I would want to say. And by this time, I had already learned a lot of cuss words because of the amazing company I had surrounding me. Make no mistake, they were young as well, but the area was just really gangster, I guess. So we just knew shit from an early age. But even after learning these, words and stuff, I never really quite understood what having sex was like, Because of course, nobody teaches you that. They just teach you like, hey, Loda and shit like that, And that's why I never really got to know and familiarize myself with the action and the performance of sex. I just kind of knew that it's a thing people do, and I sort of had an idea of it in my head about how it could be a thing. I'd seen, as we all did growing up in movies and shit like, or in songs, that people just kind of do do one of these around their necks. Ugh, I felt gross just doing that, but you know what I mean. So I kind of had an idea, but it was just it did not make sense in this noodle up here. So anyways, the point is I did not know anything about sexual intercourse and what went into the actual activity and how intense it was. And of course, you kids, younger kids might find it hard to believe nowadays, but there was no internet or smartphones back then, when I was growing up. So we had no exposure to, these sort of things. I had some sort of an exposure because I had a BlackBerry, I guess, so I would kind of surf the internet on there, but it was pretty rudimentary. I used to watch YouTube on my computer, but in my child brain, I could not for the life of me understand how to use the internet. I just knew how to use YouTube and watch Spider-Man gameplay on it. So this is the kind of times you're talking about, right? Caveman era, banging stones together to create fire and whatnot, and a really much simpler time. I remember back then, dude. I mean, it's not a thing that I had done, but I had heard a lot of my friends talk about it, that if you wanted to, acquire this sort of mythical material, you had to get a pen drive or a CD, I guess, and go to the nearest cyber cafe and talk to the guy over there and tell him, that, hey, just hook me up, bhaiya bhar ke do, type shit, really secretive code words. Yeah, so those were the hurdles you had to jump to even gain access to this Atlantean treasure that was porn back in 2009, 10, whatever era I'm talking about. And to be honest, even I did not know of porn and shit. I just knew that, like hot bikini pictures and shit like that. You can look it up, I guess. But I never did that because, I wasn't sexually mature enough that I wanted to engage in those sort of activities. Let's just put it that way. So this was me, an innocent little guy, no interest in watching these vile, filthy things. And I had no intention of doing it. But as they say, fate is a cruel mistress. Sometimes it just grabs you by the fucking dick hole and pulls you into its house and forces you to watch porn. Basically, is what happened with me. Not exactly that way, but I'll get to it now. So what happened was, one day I was returning from school. It was a sunny afternoon. There were birds chirping around, and it was a really really nice and happy day. And yeah, so I was really living on cloud 9 basically, and I distinctly remember being really happy that day. For some reason, I turn on my Xbox, I play with it for some time, and as is every favorite Indian kid's pastime, at least in my era, no matter how fucking excruciatingly hot it is outside, I have to get out exactly at 4 p.m. to play with my friends. And so after playing indoors for a bit, I go out in search of other loners like me who wanted to play something or just wanted to expend their, childish energy that they had in him, the sugar rush that we all have as children. And lo and behold, right across my street, right across from my house, was my best friend's house at the time, right? And he had one of these big swings in his courtyard, and I could see, my entire friend group had just gathered around that courtyard, like, one of those cricket team meetups or football team meetups. So I go over there, and I don't use the door. I jump over the fence because I was just cool and hip like that. So I start moving towards them, and it almost feel like they witnessed a murder or something, because all of them were dead silent. And I mean dead silent, dude. I think I did not even see any one of those motherfuckers even blink for a second. Every one of them was just like they had been hit with the fucking infinity void by Gojo, and all of the universe's information is just going in their heads and they can't process it or some shit. Or like Indiana Jones and the Crystal of Skulls, when she looks into it, she's like, ah, that type of shit. They were just mesmerized, enamored, and fucking encaptured by the thing they were watching. It was like they were living in a bubble. So I head on over there, I'm like, oh, what the fuck's happening? I asked one of my friends, hey, what's going on? No answer, no reply, nothing. I asked the other one, hey, what's going on? No reply. Again, everyone is focused onto one thing. Then I realized, the guy sitting in the middle of the swing, he has a phone in his hand, and it's one of those small phones, that early smartphones. It was quite literally this big of a screen, if you can even imagine. And I see, everybody's eyes is laser focused onto that screen. I'm like, oh, let me see what's going on. So I kind of, and it's because it's crowded, it's surrounded, like everyone is surrounding the swing. I can't really get a clean look at it. So I had to do one of these maneuvers, where you poke your head into under someone's underarm and kind of, So I did that, and that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my life. Probably that has changed the entire course of my life. Because as that one Drake album says, nothing was the same, dude, after that. Nah. I think my life would have been in a completely different trajectory by now if I had just decided to leave and go back to my house that day. Because, friends, what I saw that day on that mobile screen in probably 26 pixels was my first porn video. And it wasn't any old porn video, dude. If it was a good porn video, it would have been a happy memory, but no. My first porn video, what I saw was hardcore pussy fisting. Yes. And I couldn't make heads and tails out of it, dude. Because as I said, I was familiar with the concept of sex, and that it had something to do with like dick and pussy and shit. But I hadn't seen it in action, and nobody had explained to me, what happened. So I kind of, in my head, pieced together that this was porn I'm looking at, this was sex. But I just couldn't understand what was happening, because what I saw, was, like an upside view of just, ass. When you're fucking someone in doggy style, and you can just see that peaches, basically. That was that. And after it, just beyond the cheeks, I can just see like a huge, not even huge, but a long fleshy arm like thing. And well, as I said, was fisting. But at that time, I fucking did not know what the fuck it was. So I was really confused. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It looked like, Eeyore out of Winnie and Pooh, like straight out of like 100 acre land, had come up over there. It looked like someone had stapled something at the end of her ass or some shit. And initially I was just confused by the body horror I was looking at. I could not for the life of me understand what kind of anatomy this was. But after a while, dude, the hand started doing like one of these, it started shaking and vibrating at an alarming pace, and I just could not understand it. It was as if he was Homer Simpson, strangling an invisible Bart inside of the pussy or some shit. I could not for the life of me understand why he was vibrating the way he was vibrating, and how it was even physically possible, dude. There wasn't any space to do it, and he was just like a fucking lawnmower going off. It was insane. I kind of figured out that it was a hand, but no part of me, no atom, no fucking quark in my body was ready to accept the fact that the hand was inside their ass. Or not their ass, their pussy. I just thought that maybe it's kind of a, different angle. The hand is under them or some shit. I don't know, dude. But my friends, that happiness was short lived. Just when I thought, it's nothing goofy going on over there, I just see like that dude take his entire hand out of the girl's pussy, and holy shit, I lost my fucking marbles over that, because I did not for the life of me expect someone to just be fisting, something. It's not a concept you can think of as a child. And back then, I thought the pussy and the ass and like the asshole and shit like that, all of them were like a single thing. So, so I basically thought that they had their hand up their ass, and that scared the fuck out of me, dude. The moment he, did one of these, he like a flower blooming, he did this. I'm like, what? Just take it out, dude, like a spear or some shit. Make it more aerodynamic. No, 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 no. This guy had to be all artistic and dancey about it. It's like, no, wee. It was as if I had seen the rare Rafflesia flower bloom in the Amazon rainforest. It was quite honestly, it was up to a certain extent mesmerizing. I tell you, dude, that was so gross. To this day, I refuse to watch any porn that has the dude inserting more than two fingers in someone's pussy, because I just feel bad, man. I feel the pain inside me. And just as that happened, dude, there I was standing, stunned. I was stone cold stunned. It if you looked at me, it was as if I had been embalmed and turned into a mummy. I had no feelings. I did not know how to feel, what to feel, or what had just happened in front of me. I was essentially larping as a dead body right then and there. I was just standing still, like somebody had propped me up. Like, you know how in video games and movies you have those really old mansions and shit, and they have a suit of armor just standing like this, T posing in the corner. That was me. And it was as if a fucking flashbang just went off right in my fucking face. But instead of, a white screen, it was just unsolicited anal fisting, essentially. And what stood there amongst those fellow homunculus was not a human anymore, dude. There was not a single alive cell in my body for that brief moment of time. All that I was composed of was like a husk of my former self, and there was no joy and no life left in me. And then it hit me like a truck, you know what I had witnessed, and the absolute mortality of it. And then, I almost fucking puked, dude. I was so disgusted by it. I just ran away from them. And the worst part of it is, dude, I thought that was sex, dude. For a good period of time, I thought sex meant people inserting their entire hands inside of someone's butthole. Do you realize how fucking insane that is, and how scared I was? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that to any gentle, loving woman. No, sir, no, I'm not doing that. That looks straight up hurtful. And also, admittedly, what fueled the fear even more was that I thought, okay, through some magic, if I insert my entire hand up your ass, after that, you would have to do the same to me as sort of returning the favor or some shit. And I was like, nah, dude. I'm not taking a fist up my ass anytime soon or anytime in my life. That just left a permanent mark on me, dude. To this day, whenever I watch a porn video or even an image or some shit, I cannot I cannot stand more than two fingers going into the pussy at a time, because I just feel like I'm being hurt or some shit, dude. It just grosses me out. Hell nah. And after that, dude, I feel like after that exact moment, Schrodinger's cat creating two different parallel worlds, I got separated from the sacred timeline, and I got teleported into one where I absolutely cannot stand fisting, because I feel like there's a part of me somewhere in the multiverse that would have absolutely loved fisting, if he had grown up as a normal adult and later figured it out. But I can't stand it anymore. I feel like the entire course of my life has been changed because of it. And yeah, dude, that's that. So I don't know what I wanted to convey through this story. I guess if you're young and trying to watch porn and should be careful, don't stumble upon something you're not ready for, as they say. And yeah, if you have younger siblings, just make sure they're shielded from this shit. And tell me about your amusing first time porn stories and how they've affected you. uh yeah, see you.